Good evening and welcome to the Ladies Wing program of WZCC today, the webinar today. My name is Behroze Daruwalla and I'm the Global Chair for Women Entrepreneurs as the Ladies Wing of WZCC. And I welcome you all to this webinar. Since I see a lot of people who are not actually members of WZCC, let me take a moment or two just to run you by what WZCC is about. The World's Electricity Chamber of Commerce, WZCC as it's commonly known, was established in Chicago 2000 and has 7 regions around the world, namely North America, that's US and Canada, Australia, Middle East, UK, Iran, Southeast Asia, that's Singapore and Hong Kong, and of course, India. We have around about 20 chapters globally and have over 1,000 members. WZCC actually provides a platform for members to network, promote, and provide their expertise for upliftment of professionals and entrepreneurs. The Women Entrepreneur, the WE Wing, the Ladies Wing, was established much later, around in 2015, and the focus was to empower women, professionals, and entrepreneurs in their life. Each chapter normally holds programs to meet their local needs. However, in 2020, we had COVID and we faced a different kind of challenge at different levels, and the complete scenario changed. Friends, being challenged in life is inevitable, but being defeated is optional. And since WZCC believes very strongly that every crisis can be turned into an opportunity, we decided to hold global webinars, involve members from all over the world. Globally, we got speakers globally, we got members globally to attend, and as you can see, we are rocking and rolling. In today's hyper-digital world, staying ahead of the curve is more important than ever. So we have roped in experts from the digital marketing arena from around the globe, London, Dubai, Pune, Bombay, to walk us through this journey of transformation and to learn the tricks of the trade that we can directly apply as professionals and entrepreneurs. So without much ado, I want to hand over the session to one of our very own young lady women entrepreneur, Pearl, who will take this session forward. Before I request Pearl to take over, just a housekeeping issue. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. You can name the speaker you want to address the question to. Otherwise, the question will be asked across the panelists. That's it. Pearl, over to you, dear.
Good afternoon. I'm so happy to see everyone tune in from various cities and WZCC chapters. It's a great start, and I'm very excited to see the kind of panelists and the caliber of people we have here today. For those of you in the industry, for those of you wanting to get in, and all of you actually as professionals operating and running your own show, I really hope you have an immediate takeaway from today's session that we've put together for you. To start off with, I would like to invite Jerastine Antia to give us a little quick introduction about her. Jerastine is going to join us from Dubai. She's put together a slide for all of us to see, post which she'll be happy to take any questions. Jerastine.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Pearl. Thank you, Behroze. Good afternoon, good evening, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me again to this webinar. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Jerastine Antia. I look after the marketing in a company called Tune Protect EMEA, and I specialize in social media marketing, amongst other forms of digital marketing. In my experience in social media, it's a powerful tool which can elevate your brand to new heights. So we once ran a global awareness campaign to educate travel agents and airlines and airports, amongst others, when a passenger has a intellectual disability, for travel agents to use a DPNA code, which was a disability and needs assistance code. So of more than 250 million flight bookings that were made through our system, the travel code system, in 2018, the DPNA code was actually applied to just 4,300 bookings, which statistically it was 0.01%. 0.015%. It was really, really tiny. So this was an educational campaign for travel agents to start using the DPNA code a lot more. And we ran a 10-month campaign. It was a global campaign. And I can tell you that, social media is really powerful. We worked in partnership with the International Air Transport Association, which is IATA, and we had a partner, an Emirati vlogger by the name of Khalid Al Amiri. He documented his family's experience traveling from UAE to Bahrain, and he used the DPNA code, which was on his booking because his son was on the autism spectrum. And since the video went viral on Khalid's Facebook page, which was on World Autism Day, the 1st of April, it was viewed more than 7.9 million times. It was shared more than 100,000 times, and it received more than 12,000 messages of support. So you can tell how powerful social media is. But consistency was key to this. I'm going to share some slides, and I'm going to quickly take you through some social media strategy. Pearl, let me know when you can see my screen. Just a second.
We can see your screen.
Okay, that's great. All right. Just take you through to the next slide. Why isn't this moving ahead? Okay, for the social media strategy, for those of you who have your own businesses, I would firstly advise you to set some SMART goals. Those are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound goals. This is basically, you need to identify what your objective is. What key result are you trying to achieve? Are you primarily trying to increase traffic to your website, or is it improving your brand awareness? You need to set some really specific goals. Secondly, you need to look at the target audience. This will be probably the same as your broader marketing strategy. Who is your target audience? What are they going to learn from your posts? Is this of any value to them? Thirdly, primarily your primary social channels. What channels will you focus on? What is your target audience most active on? Which channels? They might not necessarily be active on all of the social media channels, so you need to choose which channels you're going to really focus on. Even if you're on many of these channels, it's helpful to identify the most important ones. So if you're a cookie business, you might feel Instagram and Facebook is the most relevant ones to you. You might not feel the other ones, Twitter or Snapchat, TikTok might be more relevant. It's up to you. Competitive analysis, you need to know your competition. Where are your competitors on social media? What do they do well, or what do they do poorly? Have a good content mix. What kind of content will you share on your social media pages? Keep a balance of conversion focused content versus your stories of external thought leaders, and keep some original own pieces as well. Sorry. The last one was meaningful metrics. What metrics or KPIs would you use to define your successes? Vanity metrics like number of followers are good. They're easy to track, but it's hard to prove their real value. So I would suggest instead focus on things like engagement or click-through rates or conversion rates. Right, the next one is social media calendar. Very strategic tool you could have. Lots of tools out there in today's world. You can really just Google some of the most popular social media calendars that you can use. Organize each of your social media posts by your channels. And then date and time, when assigning a date and time post, pay attention to your posting cadence. That's basically your modulating your voice. Be yourself. I would suggest, try and make it as human as possible, your posts. Those sort of add value. And thirdly, remember, Rome was not built in a day. So you got to be consistent with your posts if you want to grow. You got to stay true to yourself. And don't publish any content that would reflect your brand poorly. Where do you see your most traffic to flow in from? You need to focus on those channels. You need to stand up for what you believe in, basically. People have emotions, so they will connect. For example, Pride Month. I've seen a lot of brands just change their logos during Pride Month to rainbow colors. But if you really believe in inclusion and diversity, then you need to state why you're doing it, why you're making this change, right? In International Women's Day, you need to probably state why you believe in equality for women. All these small things do make a difference. And lastly, of course, don't publish content that would reflect your brand poorly. Is things on the internet can tend to blow up. So if you are mindful about what you publish, then you'll have less controversy on your social media sites. Right here, I've put my email address and my LinkedIn page, so feel free if anyone wants to contact me. That's it from my side.
Thank you, Jerastine. I would take another minute from you and talk about your moment of pivot. I think it's very interesting that in a time like COVID, when travel was a very restrictive option, how did you, your company, and personally your own social media strategies turn around? What were some of the things that you implemented, and how did your tonality and sensitivity towards the situation play a role?
Yes. So basically, people were very sensitive to travel, right? Nobody wanted to take flights. Nobody wanted to travel from one place to another. It was a very sensitive topic. So personally, as a brand, as a company, we changed our tonality to being sensitive. We were telling people it's okay to travel. It was okay to take a flight. So we had to post factual stats saying X percentage of COVID cases are through travel. If governments start making a difference, or they open borders up, it's safe to travel. Sort of building that confidence. It was slow. It still is very slow. I'm going to be honest, but it's happening. It's there. We do have big brands like IATA and Travelport working hand in hand and constantly putting out stats out there, sort of building that confidence. We have lots of talk shows, lots of interviews, lots of media articles that go out, just building confidence. I think we're still in that stage right now.
Thank you, Jerastine.
Moving
forward, I would love to invite Professor Zubin Sethna, someone that I personally really admire, the vision as an entrepreneur and as a professor. For those of you that do not know Zubin personally, I would love to step in and say he is a part of Regent's University in London. So Zubin is joining us from London today and leaving it open to you.
Thank you very much, Pearl. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen, people. Give me 2 seconds. Right, so hopefully you can all see that, right? Yeah, excellent, good stuff. So thank you very much, WZCC and the Women's Entrepreneurship Wing for inviting me today. Pleasure and honor to be here with you this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are in the world. So my name is Zubin Sethna, and as Pearl says, I'm a professor of entrepreneurial marketing and consumer behavior at Regent's University, London. Not always been an academic, been an entrepreneur, had a number of businesses over the years, and I'm just going to flip forward. So that next slide is a plethora of information that really just shows everything that I've been involved with over the years. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see some of the books that I've written. I won't go into the numbers, but that third column there is the journal that I edit, the editor-in-chief of the Journal for Research and Marketing and Entrepreneurship. So if any of you have a paper you potentially want to publish, then please do contact me. God, what else have I done? On the top right, you will see the word transgender entrepreneurship upside down, because it is turning my world upside down right now. That's my current area of academic research interest, which obviously takes research into gender entrepreneurship to the next level. So it's interesting. I'm talking to you here as female entrepreneurs, but there's a whole more world out there looking at transgender, which I'm learning a lot about and having a lot of fun doing so at the same time. But because I've only got, I think, between 10 and 15 minutes, I'm gonna crack on here, okay, if you don't mind. So my brief really today was to talk to you about growing your business through marketing and digital transformation. And so question one is, why create a digital transformation strategy at all? Now, I guess from an academic perspective, research really shows that today many businesses are realizing the imperative for digital transformation. So to be able to compete in digital marketing, data and technology, what we need is a structured process of digital transformation. But this need for transformation is particularly strong in larger international brands and organizations that need to manage the change of introducing new processes, new skills, new structures, new technologies. But it's equally important in small and medium-sized enterprises as well. Now, let's go back in time. Let's go back in history. It has been something like 25 years since the first pioneers started to use the internet for marketing. And we were promised all sorts of things, right? We were promised that there would be new tactics like the web and email marketing. And these would offer cheap, quick, easy techniques to reach these new markets that are going to save the world. But of course, we now know that this isn't the case and that proactive management of digital marketing is actually needed. So digital transformation actually gives us the opportunities to use technology to drive efficiencies for both sell-side customer interactions, so the B2C that some of you may be familiar with, but also the buy-side interactions with suppliers, so the B2B. The scope of transformation, of course, may include both and also internal communications. Let's not forget about that, because internal communications and knowledge management are both related to the company's intranet, as shown by the visual there. So in this very, very short presentation, what I'm doing is focusing on the improvements to customer marketing communications to support ultimately customer acquisition. Now, the scope of the transformation project may include introducing a transactional e-commerce platform, but this is not relevant for all industries, right? So for example, complex, high-value business-to-business services, which are selected by many people in a business, may never actually be sold online. And likewise, some e-commerce facilities may be limited to parts or customer service. So in my experience, the scope of digital transformation projects is often too narrowly focused on the tech, on technology. And transformation projects, are often rooted in applying digital technology. Indeed, if you look at the Wikipedia entry, and I'm forever telling my students to never, ever go anywhere near Wikipedia, and here's me telling you about Wiki. But if you look at the Wikipedia entry for digital transformation, it focuses exclusively on tech. And I think this is a mistake, since technology is actually only a tool to deliver customer interactions and support those processes across different devices. And so while selecting the right type of technology and the technology strategy, it's best to actually start with how the customer value proposition and customer experience will be affected, and how this then meets the business objectives for customer acquisition and also retention. Now, there are a multitude of opportunities for new ways of doing business through new business models. And also, these also need to be considered to counter digital disruption by new entrants to a marketplace. Luckily for me, the Harvard Business Review actually concurs with my thinking on this. And in their article, Digital Transformation, it's not about technology, because they note that because most digital technologies provide possibilities for efficiency gains and customer intimacy. But if people lack the right mindset to change and the current organizational practices are flawed, then digital transformation will simply magnify those flaws. So their article actually suggests a number of different lessons to reduce the technology fixation, of which I think there are these two which are most important. Lesson number one is figure out your business strategy before you invest in anything. And lesson number two here is design customer experiences from the outside in. I don't care really what your organization does or is doing for you and your stakeholders, your shareholders. For me, it's about your customers and what you can actually do for them. So I totally agree with this sentiment from HBR. Creating a customer-centric, digital marketing and transformation strategy that aligns with business strategy is absolutely essential. And the structure that I recommend is in the next few slides that you can hopefully use to try and achieve something. Now, a colleague of mine, Dr. Dave Chaffee, defines digital transformation for marketing as a staged program of organizational improvements to business models, people, process, and technologies used for integrated digital and multi-channel marketing in order to maximize the potential business contribution of digital tech and media. Excuse me. Now, notice that he actually emphasizes the integrated or the integration of digital and multi-channel marketing, since it's vital that digital marketing activities don't become siloed. So, for example, it's the digital marketing team that deal with digital marketing. We don't want that to happen. Although, excuse me, a digital marketing, perhaps a center of excellence of some description, which is basically a structured or a structural response, is something that I would recommend, since it gives a core team the leeway to actually manage and prompt adoption of digital marketing techniques and technologies across the entire organization. So from a customer or consumer perspective too, a multi-channel integrated approach is best, since customers are channel agnostic and will often want a seamless experience across a number of both digital and traditional channels. And Jerastine, intimated this as well just a few minutes ago. So don't just take my word for it here, okay? The Salesforce definition of what digital transformation actually is also highlights the importance of integration across functions and putting customers at the very heart of transformation. So they say that digital transformation is the process of using digital tech to create new or modify existing business processes, culture, customer experiences to meet the changing business and market requirements. So what's the scope of digital transformation? Well, I think it should involve managing and harnessing the 5 Ds of digital. This is, again, it comes out of Chaffee and Smart Insights. And the 5 Ds define opportunities for consumers to interact with brands and for businesses to reach and learn from their audiences in a variety of different ways. So digital devices. These are where the audiences actually experience brands as they interact with business websites and mobile apps, typically through a combination of connected devices, including smartphones and tablets and desktop computers and TVs and gaming apps and so on and so forth. You then got digital platforms. So here, most interactions on these devices are through a browser or apps, perhaps, from the major platforms or services. So that's things like the social media that Jerastine was talking about, so Facebook and Instagram and Google and YouTube and Twitter and LinkedIn and so on and so forth. Digital media it's all about the different paid, owned, and earned communications and the various communication channels that exist for reaching and engaging audiences, including advertising and email and messaging, search engines and social networks, and the whole plethora there. Digital data is all about the insight that we can gain as businesses and that businesses actually collect about their audiences and the various audience profiles and their interactions with our businesses, which now needs actually to be protected by law in most countries. And that's a good thing, because we hear of horror stories all over the world about our interaction data going astray. And then lastly here, digital technologies. Now, this is obviously the marketing technology or MarTech stack that businesses actually use to create interactive experiences from websites and mobile apps to in-store kiosks and email campaigns. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. So I'm going to give you a quick practical example from the banking sector. And let's look at how transformation fuels growth here. So this usability research on the user experience of banking actually involved competitor benchmarking, where different activities like opening an account were logged and then compared. Now, what this study actually highlighted is the digital disruption caused by challenger banks and how some industry incumbents have actually improved their customer experience, but others clearly haven't. So the findings were really, really shocking. Just look on that slide at the difference between the 10 days plus, for an account to become active from existing banks in the UK, in comparison to the 2 to 3 days for an account to be active from the various challenger banks like Monzo and Starling and Metro. Now, some of these traditional banks like Barclays and Lloyds have actually revised their back office process using straight through processing, so that they offer now a 2 to 3 day turnaround process. And so in terms of digital experiences, the challenger banks perform even better, and some of the traditional companies offer a much poorer experience. So I think this is my final two slides then, okay? So I think it's clear that the customer experience is much poorer when the process takes much longer. And this will translate into frustrated customers and, God forbid, lost business as well. So recognizing the need for a managed transformation process in an organization is an essential early part of the process in order to actually get everyone to buy in and the investment needed to make that transformation a success. So here are my 7 reasons why you need a digital strategy. Number 1, online savvy competitors grab market share through better focus and skills on complex digital marketing techniques. Number 2, weak improvement process because smart objectives, those smart objectives that Jerastine talked about just a few minutes ago, are not defined. And therefore a lack of suitable digital marketing dashboards and testing platforms to use data-driven processes for improvement. Number 3, opportunities from research from analyzing new customer buyer behavior, competitor benchmarking, and preference for new business models haven't been considered. Number 4, ad hoc use of inbound digital marketing techniques, including investing in digital media and supporting the technology and data. That is, that no defined marketing technology stack has been implemented. Number 6, lack of vision and employee understanding for the initiative because of poor internal communications, not telling your own people what the hell you're doing. Number 6, insufficient investment in digital skills across the business, which would be a really daft thing to do. And number 7, no long-term roadmap of priorities for improving the use of always-on marketing, and also marketing technology. So finally, people, there is really no magic bullet for guaranteed commercial or marketing results. And this infographic, is designed to help you consider your own processes for successful marketing. But of course, we don't have enough time to go into this right now in any great depth. And that's why Beresford Consulting, my own entrepreneurial marketing consultancy, exists. So if you want more information, please do get in touch. That's me, over and out.
Thank you so much, Zubin. I think what I really liked is the fact that you addressed the why. So all 70 participants here today, the first moment they took to really understand is it's not just the panelists, it's not just WZCC we, but really the why and the purpose of joining in to learn today. The mindset, like you said, is the right approach. I think if everybody in the organization, starting from the entrepreneur down to the team, understands that the mindset requires to change, it's only then that we're going to really allow the transformation to kick in. And I think the last point that I really want to emphasize from your thing that as an immediate takeaway for me was that we cannot afford to have every department work as a silo. So I couldn't agree more. I might be really interested in my own organization within marketing and social media, but I really try to make it a point so that the internal communication stays strong, that everybody somehow or the other is involved in the process. So it may not actually be down to posting or uploading something, but really understanding the mindset and the direction in which we want to go. So thank you so much, Zubin. I think everyone must have really understood and absorbed a lot, actually. Moving on, I would like to invite Rehaan Dadachanji from Mumbai to say a couple of words. Rehaan, we'd love to know about your journey within this space. You are an actively practicing professional and really helping deploy all of these marketing strategies for organizations across FMCG products to services. So we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Pearl. Thanks for that introduction. And it's nice going after Professor Zubin, because I think there was a lot covered that sort of set the fundamentals for perhaps what I'm going to talk about. And I'm actually going to change what I'm saying a little bit based on what Jerastine and Professor Zubin have already covered. So I'd like to start with a little bit of a story as to how I got here and how I got into digital marketing in the first place. And I was thinking back on this maybe a week or two ago, when this guy from my team, who's all of 21 years old, when I saw his CV, he's born in the year 2000, because all of them have now entered the workforce. And he was saying exactly what Professor and Jerastine were talking about, that, hey, dude, what we're doing here, it's not cool. People aren't going to like what we're doing. I said, why? It probably does work. And then you realize that your consumer thinks very differently from what you as a brand or a marketer thinks. And it's not just a generational thing. There are a lot of different things that go into it that was already covered a little bit in terms of objective content, things like that. So I was thinking back to when I was studying media, and just after that, I had the opportunity to go to Delhi and work with Coca-Cola in their marketing teams, and post that come back to Bombay and work in their digital and social media teams. And my business partner, Karthik, who I've started this company called the Starter Labs with, at that point, he was working with a lot of startups and SMEs who were trying to grow their brands and their digital presence. Before we went and before we started playing football on one fine day, we just got together and said, hey, a lot of brands and a lot of companies don't seem to be leveraging digital nearly as well as at least we think that they could. So we started talking to a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of founders, a lot of brand managers who ran the marketing wings of companies. And we saw a few things that are consistent in terms of challenges that they face. A primary one being, of course, I'm running the business. I can't do everything. I'm focusing on my product or my service or whatever it is. And I can't hire 5 people. I can't afford it. I don't know which 5 people to hire. I don't know how to run that myself. And what we saw with a lot of small agencies, a lot of mid-sized and larger agencies as well, to be honest, was a very typical vendor-based model, where a brand would come in and say, hey, this is what I need. And the agency would say, okay, sir, ma'am, I will do 20 posts for you. This is how much I will charge you. I will do 40 posts. This is how much I will charge you. And I think why I'm glad I've gone after Jerastine and Professor Zubin is because they clearly established how you need an overall strategy. You can't do one thing and say, hey, this is my digital strategy. I'm posting on Facebook or I'm posting on Instagram, whatever it is. So we said, well, how about we as an agency, we come in from an objectives point of view, from a broader impact perspective, and sit with the brand and say, hey, we'll tell you what we can do for you. But first, let's talk about your business. Let's try to understand where you want to take your business. And the steps that Jerastine spoke about clear in terms of set your objectives, set your TG, set your content plan, your media plan. And once we figure out what the objectives are, that's when he said, we'll come in. And then we'll tell you if you want to get in, if you need a content, data, tech, media strategy, and build out from there. So we started in September 2016. So it's been close to 5 years now. We've worked with, I think, probably over 120, 130 companies across various different industries, from consumer brands to e-com brands to business B2B brands. And we're a team of about 35 of us now across the content, media, tech, and data teams. And what we did, what we have noticed over the past couple of years, which I think both speakers before me alluded to, is your digital strategy always has to be a combination of a lot of things. They can't just be one thing that you're doing. So once you're able to define what your objectives are, whether that is in terms of awareness, sales, leads, conversions, etc., then from there you can build out your TG, and then you can get into building out your content and media strategy. So it's been a very interesting journey for us. We've really had a lot of exciting brands we worked with across different sizes and sectors. And an interesting story, Paul, I think the question that you asked Jerastine before you asked me, I'll cover it myself. When we did hit the pandemic and a lot of businesses had to change, we were actually in a very good position where a lot of companies were coming to us and saying, hey, this is what we need to do. whether they were existing clients or new clients. So the need to have a robust digital strategy is equally important to make sure that you can pivot and you can change very quickly. Because every day I read articles which will talk about how something's changed, something has different. And Professor Zubin was talking about how customers are platform agnostic. And what that means is that the attention is there. You have to figure where the attention is there and how you need to get to it. So you need to stay ahead of the curve. Today, Instagram Reels has come out a couple of months ago. We can't sit back and say that, hey, none of our clients needed it at the time, so we're not going to learn it when 6 months down the line, which is now, and sometime everyone's only doing that. So I think there was a little takeaway that I could bring, and just to give you a small example of how we sort of did this with a brand. When the lockdown hit, a brand that we were working with, which was in the clothing space, their factory was shut down. They couldn't deliver. They couldn't produce any product whatsoever. And we said, okay, fine now, but customers still have a requirement for this. Customers are still interested. So we said, let's throughout the month of March and April, even if they can't deliver, let's run a sale, let's run a pre-order discount and make sure that everyone still knows about us. And that was actually the record sales that we did hit for the brand because customers were interested in what was, and it was something new and different that we did. So yeah, that's about it from me. I'm happy to take any questions later on. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Rehaan. I love that you tied in everything together and really put a perspective to all the learnings that Jerastine and the context that Zubin had set in and really showed us how you use that to navigate and come where you are. I would love to talk to you more about it, but before we do, let's just hear from Shweta. So Shweta joins us from Pune as our final panelist. And Shweta, over to you.
Hi, thank you so much. And just like Rehaan just mentioned, the speakers have already set the tune right. And we've spoken about the basic fundamentals that are so essential for all to have a social media. And during the past 2 years, during the pandemic years, everything has definitely understood that there is a need to change. And like they rightly say, just to change means we are simply improving, but we need to change real quick. And pandemic has made us realize that yes, we need to evolve and evolve real quick. And social media marketing, the stem out of the entire digital marketing that I work on primarily, is definitely the key to keep going in the current times. I'm Shweta Nair, and I'm from Pune. I've been running a social media company, Social Sedan, since 2009. After that, I also got into publishing kids' newspaper. And why I'm touching on this is because during the pandemic, we clearly realized that even something that we had in our heads planned to be completely a physical newspaper could not survive during pandemic unless we completely changed the model and adapted to an online newspaper. So it is essential that we are able to give the same experience to our customers, to our clients online, which we were earlier able to give when they were experiencing through their visit for shopping. And education has been one industry, especially in India, that has experienced this change. All schools have gone online completely, and everything has set very, very differently by just adapting to the social media and digital marketing world. So yes, that is all.
Thank you, Shweta. I would like to kick off with a couple of questions, specifically talking about what the panelists had shared. Starting off with Jerastine. Jerastine, since it is a WZCC We seminar, I would love to hear a couple of your stories or case studies which talks about women entrepreneurs and your role, and a couple of Zorro businesses maybe that has a takeaway for everyone or something that they could implement in their own organization.
Right. So I have a very close friend who runs a confectionery, a cake business in Bombay. And of course, the pandemic hit the business, and a lot of people stopped ordering. There was a lot of confusion whether could take deliveries and stuff. So I think things did slow down for a while, but I think the way she sustained herself was social media. She kept posting good content and relevant content, and gave that confidence to people that it's still good to go ahead and order, and that packages go from point A to point B. It's not going through 10 other delivery guys and stuff like that. So I think what she did really smart was use that strategy in a positive light. The business's name is Black Vanilla, operates in Mumbai. Another friend of mine, Ashton Doctor, he runs the Habit Coach, so he does a lot of podcasts. Very, very positive one. It's all digital, very good strategy. If you guys want to follow it on YouTube, he has just crossed 500 episodes, which is fantastic news. So yeah, I think a lot of Zoro businesses have done really well, survived, I would say, when the pandemic hit initially. And then you've got to find a way to sort of pick it up. Once there's a slow, I know things go down, and then you've got to find a way, a niche way to just sort of bring your business back on track. Be different, use reels, use stories. A lot of businesses were quite skeptical of using LinkedIn. Although, you might be a cookie business or you might be an ice cream business. Why do you want to be on LinkedIn? But very smartly incorporating some really good tactics, I think people have survived. That's the really good part about social media.
I agree with you, Jerastine, and thank you for sharing it with us. I agree with you that you need to be quite well aware. Thank you for sharing that a friend of yours runs a LinkedIn course and a couple of other things that people could learn from. Understanding that whether you're a profession in the marketing space or not, you need to be aware about its implications, because at the end of the day, digital marketing especially is extremely measurable as a tool. So we have literal positive case studies that show a direct impact of a successful campaign that's launched out. Keeping that in mind, maybe a couple of tools or different websites that you refer to that our audience can actually go and look at after this would be lovely.
Sure. So if you're looking at social tools, like social distribution tools, one that I really like is Hootsuite. There are quite a few really new ones. Contentino, there's Falcon.io, there's Monday.com, which is more of a project management tool. Sort of, there's tons of them. Airtables and lots of tools that you could use to be distributing your social, sort of have a social media content calendar, sort of, and lots of free tools out there. One that I would recommend for new businesses for direct email marketing is MailChimp. It's free, and up to a certain amount you can have a really good database. A paid one, which is really good, and I've used this one as well, is Oracle Eloqua. There's HubSpot, the Salesforce, lots of marketing tools, lots of social media stuff you can do there as well. Oracle SRM is another one that I've used. But these are all paid tools, so it kind of gets quite expensive if you're a small business. What else? There's Brand Watch, there's brand mentions for if you want to do any sort of competitor analysis, or you want to see how your brand is trending. These are good tools.
Perfect. Thank you, Jerastine. If you have a minute or two, please post a couple of them in the chat. I know I know a couple of good names, and whoever wants to can quickly jot it down.
Sure, I'll do that.
Zubin, the next question comes in for you from Rustam Engineer. Rustam has a question on saying that you mentioned certain strategies could have insufficient investments. How do you determine what is a sufficient investment? I think it's a question we all tend to ask. How do you evaluate whether a marketing agency is really a bang for its buck or it's way too expensive, and maybe just some guidelines that people could deploy?
Okay, all right. This is an easy one, because look, I think what we have to understand and remember continuously is that digital marketing is what we are involved with in our world, but that many of the principles and foundations of digital marketing sit within what we know as marketing. Okay, so if we go back in history, I think one of the slides that I showed was with the circle was the SOS ABC, prsmith.org. The situational analysis, the objectives, the strategy, the action, the budget, the controls. These are all staple marketing questions that we would ask. So my rhetorical question would be, well, why is it any different in a digital world? And so when we're looking at insufficient investment, okay, let's think about how traditional marketing departments used to battle with their boards. Okay, so they would say, all right, well, look, chief exec and board, we need $250,000 to run next year's marketing plan. Here's the strategic marketing plan. Here's the tactical stuff. Here's the amount of money that we need. And the chief exec and the board would look at it and go, well, you know what, we've had a really bad year. And marketing, you guys just go and spend. And therefore, no, sorry, we're not going to give you $250,000. We're going to slash that to $125,000, right? Unfortunately, what that stupid marketer then goes off and does is try to cram the entire marketing plan using $125,000 of the budget, right? You can see what's coming next. Of course, they're not going to achieve what they set out to achieve because clearly they don't have the money. So what I would say in direct answer to Rustam's question in terms of insufficient investment, okay, you need to invest whatever you believe it takes, having done your data analysis, to achieve the goals that you and your business have set out. So if if whatever strategy you've got, if that's going to cost $100,000, that's what it's going to cost. So don't look at it from a numbers perspective. When you're talking to your finance director or your finance partner or whoever, basically, or even if it's you in your small business and you wear multiple hats, don't think about it from a perspective of how much money have I got to spend on this. Right? Think about it from the other way, which I kept going on about in my presentation earlier, is what is it that the customer is looking from you from you, and how are you going to, what channels do you need to use to communicate with those customers to get your message across, and you do a sort of a sum total of all of that, and that's the amount of money you have to spend. Now, if you don't have that kind of money, okay, then I suggest, okay, well, once you figure out how much money you've got to spend as a proportion of the overall, the ideal, then you scale down your marketing plan accordingly. But please do scale it down, because you won't be able to achieve everything with a lower budget. Does that answer the question?
Rustam, I hope that's answered your question. I don't think he could have explained it any better and addressed a couple of more points. One super important one being working your transformation strategy for the customer and keeping the customer's objective and needs as the end goal. Khurshid has sent across a question. Rehaan, I think I'm gonna give this one to you. What capacity does one need to have to enter social media? One reads of cases where popular products and businesses, popular product and businesses explode on social media and the business is not ready to handle that volume or level of interaction. Firstly, Khurshid, I really hope that does happen to someone, because we've got an amazing set of panelists to help you and walk you through it. So I hope your business explodes in social media, and that's a good problem we can collectively solve. But Rehaan, please.
Yeah, that is a good problem to have for sure. Not sure how to answer the second part of it from the supply chain point of view, because if you do have the ability, and we see this a lot with brands we work with, that sometimes you grow too fast and then production can't keep up. But it's always a balancing act, as it is with a lot of things with the supply and demand chain. What we generally do recommend is to have a little more capacity to supply, because often there are little tricks that you can do. So let's say in the case of e-commerce, if you have excess supply, we look at end of season sales and things like that. So you can get rid of stock. The best thing to do, especially with a business which is more product driven, is to make sure that you do have a little more product, because it's It's a bigger problem from a consumer point of view. If you don't have product to fulfill orders, a consumer will be less understanding of you saying that, hey, I'm out of stock, I'll need another 2 weeks, I messed up that chain. And in the off chance that does happen, you have to be very clear and put that out of stock, which often we even do as marketing tactics, but you still need to do that so that the consumer knows where you are and where your brand is. But account for more demand, and it's a great problem to have if you do have more demand than you can look at.
Thank you, Rehaan. And Rehaan, I think the other question, if you could just shed a little more light on it, what does one really need to have to enter social media as a space? So as a business owner or as a professional, whichever side of angle you would like to just talk about.
Yeah, to enter the space, there's a lot of fundamentals that you need to be aware of. Again, you don't need to be an expert in everything. And we often confuse digital marketing with just social media. Digital marketing is a lot more than just social media. So I'll look at it from the overall lens. So you might not be able to be knowledgeable in depth in content, media, data, and tech. So there's a lot of marketers, especially on the brand and agency side, they look at a T approach where you have a little knowledge of everything and then you go deep in one aspect of it. Now, as a business owner, unfortunately, you need to know every aspect of it, but not necessarily in depth. But if you're able to cover the fundamentals and you understand what questions to ask, I think there's a lot of talk about what metrics to look at. If you're digitally savvy and have basic digital education, you can always get other people to help you with all of that. The challenge becomes when you don't know anything about digital, you don't know anything about running ads, and then you're relying on somebody else. That's a bad space to be in. So even if you can look at basic knowledge, and there's a lot of courses available digitally, whether you're looking at a site like an Upgrad, or even if you're just going to YouTube, there's a lot of self-learning that you can do. And this is something that I try to do every couple of days, if not every day. Just spend 10 or 15 minutes just reading up something about digital or watching some video, because it's ever changing. You can't do a course today and then tomorrow, you know everything about digital. Because I recall someone from my team actually telling me that his commerce textbook 2 or 3 years ago spoke about new media, and there was one paragraph on internet marketing. So you need to keep updating yourself on a daily and weekly basis if you want to keep up with social media.
Thank you, Rehaan. Thank you for covering it. Khurshid, I think a lot more. Jerastine has given you a fabulous answer, and Zubin has also added his inputs to it. So you've got a good response coming in. Persis Behramsha has sent in a message. So Shweta, I would like if you could help us address her query. If someone wants to start digital marketing, what is the best first step for a one-person business? So while Rehaan did cover the part of self-educating and learning in and upskilling yourself, any other angle that you think you could address with this?
Most important when you are a startup is to know that you cannot save money by not investing in marketing. So that is not the place where we can save money. It is as essential as hiring staff. It is as essential as buying a laptop for your business. So that is not one point where we would like to save, even if we are a startup, because it's exactly like trying to save your time by stopping the clock. Just like Rehaan just said, that it is evolving so quick that we definitely need experts when we are startups, so that we can focus on a niche business while we take outsourced help to grow our business better. One most important tip that I learned by falling in few startups is that involve yourself completely. Even though it is being outsourced, you would need to share your insights, because it's your baby, your business. And the social media marketer or a digital marketer will help you set the trends, find the track records, and prepare a graph for the future. But it is going to be your insight, your emotional value that you need to pass on to the customer. And just like Jerastine clearly said, that what we talk emotionally to the customers, that two-way interaction is the actual need, because everybody is posting from the internet. There's so much from the internet. Your brand authority will only come when you put in those emotions in it. So that would be my 2 tips. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shweta. I think Yazar Patel has sent in the last question. Looking at the time, any more questions that want to come in, please send it across. While Zubin has answered it, I would like Jerastine, Rehaan, Shweta, anybody else, if they have another opinion.
Yeah, well, can I jump in here?
Oh, sure.
Just on that last point, I think it's really, really important that everyone on this call understands that digital is just another way of communicating, and that there are a plethora of platforms that your customers choose to use. Okay, now what your task is, should you choose to accept it, is that you need to understand which are those platforms. Because if it's about encoding a message and then being able, your customer being able to decode that message. Now, if your customer is a 14-year-old girl who chooses to use Snapchat and you're using LinkedIn, obviously the two aren't going to meet, right? So you need to understand which platforms are your customers using, and and then use the language. Think about the language, the terminology, the way that sentences and phrases and whatever are constructed to be able to talk to your audience. They need to be able to understand it, and they need to be able to decode it. And so, when I'm talking to my students in class, and I'm talking about this very same point, often I will kind of be talking in English, and then I'll go into a maybe kind of thing, and I'll say, did you understand that? And people will go, no, I didn't. And I'll say, well, that's because you don't speak Swahili. Anyone here on the call speak Swahili? I hope not, because I just said something very, very rude. But, if you don't speak Swahili, you're not going to understand me, and therefore we're just not going to be able to communicate. And so, it's the same in the digital world. So just be very, very mindful of that.
Thank you, Zubin. I think that makes complete sense, and I hope people have really understood, and going back to the why, more than jumping in, working out a strategy or figuring which channel and avenue to use. I think we'll end this with the last one from Mahtab Dastur. At what point in the business should you start social media? After your first project, after you have a website, when you have an idea, etc. I can relate to that. It's often very daunting to realize that as a business, your website is going to launch. Should you be on social media promoting it, or are you going to lose the audience or not create that buzz? So again, leaving it open to any of our panelists to speak about it. Jerastine, I'd love to hear a few more words from you. I know you've been busy typing out all the things behind the screen, but we'd love to hear your opinion on this.
Sorry, I'm going to ask you to repeat the question.
Jerastine, the question is, at what point in the business should you really start your social media engagement? When you have your first project, so you have a prototype to show, or your website is up and running, or you have an idea and you want to simply magnify the launch. So
I would say after your website is launched, because social media remember, it's a channel, right? You want to drive traffic to your website, or you want to drive traffic or your sales to something. So I would say get the foundation right of your digital marketing strategy, and let social media be just a part of that. Your foundation's got to be really solid. So social media can wait till you have more content. Build your content over a week, 2 weeks. Have enough of posts collected. Have that calendar ready, saying on Sunday, Tuesday, I'm going to post this on Twitter. Monday, Wednesday, I'm going to post this on LinkedIn. Depending on how much content you have, you can be more regular with that. And then that's how you build your social media channels. But you've got to have that content ready. There's no point in you jam packing all your products, putting them out there, and in a month, you're done. You have nothing else to showcase, So space it out, spread that content out, and you'll always come up with new strategies on how to build that. Zubin, if you want to add something, go ahead.
I definitely just want to step in and say I agree to what you said in terms of having the content and the calendar ready, because I think what's worse than not being on social media is being absolutely silent and inactive. So I think that also tends to set out a wrong impression. So that is something that I would consider. If you do not think you have enough to talk about, I would suggest just hold back till you do, and you're quite clear with what your communications are going to be. And Zubin, once you do, we'd hear the closing statements from each of our panelists, and then take it.
One more thing to say then, very, very quickly, is this is not just talking to the entrepreneurs out there, but also talking to the professionals. Social media and your presence on your digital footprint is equally important. I know HR professionals for when a job advert goes out, apart from inviting CVs in, the first thing they do is actually go and see what your digital footprint looks like. So be very, very mindful of your, what you're putting out there and how you're engaging with different audiences. But you know what? I know my closing statement is, I know that social media and digital marketing and the whole transformation can be daunting. But what's that Chinese proverb? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. You just have to take that first step and see what kind of response you get from the audiences out there. So don't be scared. It's here to stay, much like COVID. Just got to get on with it.
Thank you, Zubin. Shweta, any closing statements from you? Jeez.
I'm sorry. Yes. So only one message. There's no one size that fits all. So please play it by the ear, understand your audience, and then take a pick on what works best for your business. Thank you. Thank you.
And Rehaan?
Yeah, and so just to add to a little bit of the conversation earlier, they say it's never a bad time to start. The best time to start is now. But a lot of it is contextual also to the business that you run and where your product is and what your product is like. Like just for example, because we work with different natures of companies. So let's say you're launching a restaurant or food delivery. Then maybe you start just before your product is finally ready, do a couple of weeks of teasers and things like that. But if you're looking at something more long run, let's say you're constructing a building, then maybe you start 2 years before your building is ready because you need to start collecting leads. So once you are able to, and I think Jerastine, in fact, everybody was able to cover this in what they were saying. You need to set your objectives. Once you know the goal that you're getting to, then you build the road there. Don't build the road and then figure out where it's going. So that would be the concluding statements from my end. And it was really nice being here. Thank you, everyone. It was lovely speaking to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rehaan. Just before we move to that, I would like to invite Zareen Karas. We have an upcoming marketplace that's going to come in. Zareen, we'd love to hear a little more about it from you quickly. Zareen,
Hello, everyone. This was a really interesting session, great deal of learning. Thanks, thanks, Pearl, and all the panelists. And while listening to today's speakers, I realized that this kind of information would help so many entrepreneurs in our community. On the 1st of August, the Bangalore chapter will launch a website promoting Parsi artisans involved in handicrafts. This follows our very successful virtual programs. We had the Marketplace in December 2020 and the Parsi Food Bazaar in March 2021. And these are all virtual, of course, thanks to COVID. We haven't been able to do the live, every year we'd have a live bazaar. And so we've completely switched to virtual and it's been very successful. So the Parsi Handicrafts Artisan Fair focuses on those entrepreneurs who lack the means to advertise and promote sales of their art and craft. We have many ladies in smaller tier 2 and tier 3 cities and towns, Navsari, Surat, making sadras, kastis, bead torans. Most of them actually sell their wares through larger shops in cities of Bombay and Pune. So we thought we'd get buyer and seller on a platform so that we can get their profit margins, give them a little more. But in addition, we are also showcasing many others. We have embroidery, sculpture, decoupage, jewelry, paintings. We have 60 artisans from all over the world under 9 handicraft categories. please, we will be sending out e-blast to everybody. And I'm hopeful that in some way today's speakers will be able to connect with entrepreneurs, both in our food space and the handicrafts, to guide them through digital marketing so that they can grow their business and become more successful entrepreneurs. And definitely, please log on to the website. It is not a website that will allow you sales. We are not involved in the sales, but it will put you in touch with these smaller entrepreneurs and help them in a big way. Thank you again.
Thank you, Zareen. Good luck to you. And we're all looking forward to support, help, and tune in and shop.
Thank you.
Farzeen?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I think that was a fantastic presentation. So I'm Farzeen Irani. I am the WE director in Dubai. And I'm very happy and would like to give a vote of thanks, especially to our guest speakers, Dr. Zubin, Sethna, Rehaan, Dadachanji, Jerastine, Antia, and Shweta, Nair, who have actually taken out their very precious time and have come and actually educated and informed our audience and I think it's not just one takeaway that they have. The audience has actually received a lot of takeaways that they can stress upon. So I like the fact that they gave all different perspectives of the digital transformation strategies, definitely being customer centric, knowing the buyer persona. I would also like to thank our global director, global vice president, Jerastine Tantra, without whom, yes, we have, he's always supported us and assisted us on having these webinars put together. Also would like to thank, our ladies from the WE core committee members who have actually behind the scenes put in a lot of hard work and efforts to put this webinar together and make it a success. Also, and not last but the least, our attendees. So thank you so much from around the globe that you have joined us and taken the time out to attend this. I am sure that you have many takeaways from this webinar, and we will continue to do so where we could actually give you more information on things that are required and as an entrepreneur or a professional. So thanks you very much, all of y'all, to have come today, to take the time out, and either be as an attendee. Thanks very much for the guest speakers, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Good evening. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.